November 2012 was a big month in terms of global news. It was a month in which Barack Obama was re-elected for his second term as President of the US. The Mighty Girls Aloud celebrated 10 years together. It was also a month in which Jimmy Savile's escapades dominated the front pages in the UK. In the gaming world though, the Wii U launched. Fans flocked in their millions to pick up Black Ops 2, Halo 4, Assassin's Creed 3. But the biggest news in the gaming world, well, for us anyway, was the announcement of the unprecedented collaboration between Codemasters and ourselves, where we're enlisted to design the achievement and trophy list for the upcoming and hugely anticipated Grid 2. For years we belittled crappy and lackluster lists. It's time for us to put our money where our mouths are. We're here at Codemasters today to speak to the Grid 2 development team and get some advice before we embark on our epic journey. Ooh. So in terms of objectives for an achievement list, not just this one, I mean, what are your ideal objectives? I mean, what should they do? What should they encourage a player to do?
I think that the objectives really need to be that they're something that draws a player in, keeps them hooked. In some ways you can actually balance, you can play off and trade off what's keeping the player hooked in terms of the actual game experience itself and actually what the achievements can do as well. So achievements and trophies on top of the game as a separate layer actually can work as a sort of breadcrumb approach to keeping players involved. Obviously we try and make the game experience as engrossing as possible anyway, but it does help to give players that sort of goal or something to aim for. So a list of objectives for them would really be that we want things that will be rewarding initially, so you'll be able to get a few achievements that will come fairly easily, and then slowly build up to the point where the player will have to work quite hard to get rewards for what they're doing in the game. But I think actually making the player feel like they're rewarded for what they're doing throughout the process is a key thing, really.
I think the average player should be able to get about 2/3 of the achievements, and then that final third should be really for the dedicated player, someone who's really willing to put in the hours. I think some fun incidental achievements that you weren't expecting to get. So throughout gameplay, something would pop up and surprise you. But then also one or two where you would really have to put the effort in and take a day off work to polish one off.
To polish one off. Nice, I like it. No, I like it. It's a good start.
For me, the ideal objectives for an achievements or trophy list is the idea that it can appeal to a range of players. I think sometimes you can get too pigeonholed into one specific target audience for your list, and what happens is not many people get involved with trying to go after those achievements or trophies. You get stuck saying, oh, I'm not going to pursue it, it's stuck in multiplayer, or it's stuck in single player. So I think it's appealing to a diverse range of players, because that's what the game's supposed to do.
So I think it's important to have a real spread in there, to be honest. I mean, obviously you want to keep the player engaged from the start of the game through to completion, and achievements play an important role in that. They're also really important for actually putting the player into areas of the game that they perhaps wouldn't explore otherwise. So they can play an important role as breadcrumbs to not only for areas of the single player experience, but also to pull them into the multiplayer if they don't usually enter that area of the game. And one of the things we're doing with Grid 2 is we're trying to separate the single player and multiplayer experience, do something we haven't done before, and they're two very different experiences. So achievements could help there. We have players that traditionally played a single player career, actually pulling them into the multiplayer experience just to give them a try, and then obviously they might like what they find.
So what advice would you give us in designing the list?
Make them as simple as possible so that they get done on time.
Okay.
That's my production hat on. No, I guess the designers are the guys that really have like the ethos and the approach in terms of how you should be rewarding players and when, how to keep them involved in the experience, how to give them interesting different goals to shoot and aim for, whether the goals should be related to the standard linear progression or whether they need to be something that you go out of your way specifically to do, because there's sort of pros and cons to whether or not, like if you just complete the first level and you get an achievement just because you've completed the first level, sometimes that feels a little bit like, well, I was going to do that anyway. Is that really an achievement in itself? So we generally in the production team leave that sort of design ethos stuff to the design team. They're the ones that make those calls. But I think it always goes back to the sort of the key aspects of retaining player interest and rewarding them throughout.
Yeah, I'd say never be afraid to try something new.
Okay.
So if you come up with an idea of an achievement that perhaps hasn't been done before, it might be a little bit tricky, but you think it's quite interesting and quite cool, then go with that, definitely.
The advice I'd give you is avoid achievements which promote online griefing. I think achievements to knock every opponent off track in an online race are just a non-starter. People, I certainly don't want that, and I'm sure that the rest of the people don't either. And kind of going back to what I said a little bit earlier about the average player being able to get a fair amount of them through a standard playthrough, I think that's something to aim for.
I'd say work with the feature set we've got. I think there's a lot in there that you can kind of garner achievements and trophies from. There's a lot of experiences that can be offered out to the player, and we can use it to motivate the player to explore the title. I think there's a lot. There's a big toy box. There's a lot to pick from. So I think explore every avenue of the game is one way to look at it.
So your advice to us would be to go wild?
You could go wild with these things, yeah, but I think we'd probably be reined in a little bit, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, if we had a year to do just the achievements,
yeah,
we could put some awesome things in. But obviously, we don't. So.
Wait, we don't have a year? Oh, I thought we had a year.
Well, 6 months. No, it's about compromise, isn't it, between the amount of time we've got to do a. I mean, it's the same with any kind of gameplay feature, isn't it? You've got a certain amount of time to do it, so you've just got to do the best you can and the most polished feature you can in the time you've got. It's the same with achievements,
So I think first of all, as mentioned, it's important to have a spread in terms of achievements, in terms of difficulty, how easy they are to achieve, how hard they are to achieve. Obviously, sort of matching gamer score to go with that. Also, I think though it's important to think outside the box. Something that we do here a lot in the racing studios, we try to innovate as much as possible. So not only within the racing genre, but just generally, we try to do things that perhaps games haven't done before, try and push the boundaries a bit. So I think that would be important in the achievements list as well.
Each achievement should feel like you're earning something, so it's something to go after or to look for a new experience within the game. So you're learning more about the title, you're getting more into the game experience by using the achievements and trophy system.
I think whatever we can do to help people get in the game, feel like they're part of the game world, yeah, anything that supports that would be great. But at the same time, it is a racing game, and I think people expect a couple of achievements in a more traditional format. But I mean, I think with the spread and the variety of achievements, we can achieve that working with you guys, no problem at all.
I think as long as the list keeps players involved throughout their experience, from no points all the way up to the full maximum amount of achievement or trophy points, and also doesn't detract from what the game is all about, I think that would be a really solid list of achievements, to be honest, because they are another layer to the experience. So if you were putting in outlandish and really wacky achievements that sort of don't gel well with this style of game, because we've made much more sort of outlandish games in the past, maybe it would be fun to sort of throw in crazy stuff. But Grid has a certain type of it has a certain approach to it and a certain type of visual style, a certain type of cinematic style. And if you really went wacky with things, it would maybe detract from what the actual game experience is. So keeping it fairly straight-laced, but still rewarding the player and making them feel like they've really achieved something by getting those points.
What do you class as wacky?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. It really depends on the title itself. So
in terms of Grid 2, what would you class as wacky? I hate to put you on the spot.
Animals being sort of killed or something like that in the middle of the game. Okay. things that just do not suit what the game is about, really. So if you had a unicorn prancing around and you had to spot the unicorn in a race or something like that, I don't know, or mow it down.
Do you have any unicorns in the game?
No.
No. Is that an exclusive, right? But world exclusive, no unicorns in
It's a world exclusive. Now there's going to be an Easter egg with a unicorn.
There is. That's going to go viral, right? Okay, so we've heard the advice and the opinions from the Grid 2 development team now. It's time for us to get into the nitty-gritty. So join us next time as we talk balance with the development team. That's single player versus multiplayer and all that kind of stuff. Don't miss it, it's sure to raise a few talking points.